So, what is the greatest sin of the white evangelical church? That is a very, very important question. Because along with Trump, white evangelicals will be basically in power and making decisions for the country. And so we need to ask some serious questions about these who are so close to the White House. Okay? So stay with me. That's what I want to cover in this video. Hello, everybody. I am Reverend and Civil Rights Attorney Augustus Corbett, one half of the Defiant Lawyers. Each and every week, we bring you at least one legal analysis of some trending story regarding politics, policies, personalities, or pop culture to empower you with the information you need to defy this unjust legal system and to nullify systemic racism. If that interests you, please like, share, comment, subscribe. Click the bell so you'll get notified every time we upload one of these powerful videos. Please go over to Amazon.com, do yourself a favor, grab a copy of my book, Education and Justice, if you have an African-American son, grandson, godson, nephew, etc. in public school. In this book, I teach you exactly how public schools mistreat African-American boys and what you can do to help your son. So get over there and grab your copy. All right, so let's get right into this. I want to talk about the greatest sin of white evangelicals. It is an extremely important question, and we're going to tackle that question in this video. Again, what is the greatest sin of white evangelicals? All right. Now, all humans sin. Let's say that up front. We all have fallen short of the glory of God, but the sins of white evangelicals deserve stricter scrutiny because their power has caused widespread harm, especially to non-white people. They've long preached about moral leaders, yet Trump doesn't fit their model. What caused this shift? And is their reasoning biblical? This video will explore these questions. Now, before we go further, I want to say that there are some really good white evangelicals in this country. I am in no way casting a broad net and saying all evangelicals are greedy, money-grubbing people. No, I know some very good white evangelicals. However, I'm talking about white evangelicals as a community. As a community. All right? So with this context, let's examine the issue further. And I pray more clergy will publicly challenge the white evangelical community, given its influence over the president-elect, arguably the most powerful man in the world. All right? So let's move forward. White evangelicals' greatest sin might not be what you expect. Many would point to racism, and that is certainly one of their sins. Others might say they have a cult-like support for Trump. We have also seen that with many white evangelicals. But neither of those sins captures the deeper issue, a sin far more insidious and dangerous. So, give me a drum roll. What exactly is that sin? Greed. Greed, or the love of money, is the greatest sin of white evangelicals. Now, let's look at it this way. Greed is the disease. Racism is the sickness. You know, someone with a disease, that is the root cause of the sickness that they experience, right? If someone has an underlying disease, that's the root cause. What we see and how it affects them is, in fact, the actual sickness. All right. Another way that you can look at that is greed is the sin Racism is the symptom. So when we talk about racism, we got to understand that it is a symptom and a sickness of a deeper problem. And that problem is, that root problem is, again, greed. Greed. All right, now let's go to scripture. It says, "For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows." Paul wrote that to his son in the gospel, Timothy, in the book we call 1 Timothy, chapter 1, verse 6. So let's unpack that. For the love of money is the root of all evil. There it is. For the love of money, that insatiable desire for more money, that never waning desire, that controlling desire for money, that love of money is the root of all evil. In other words, greed is the root of all evil. Now, I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and I can remember very, very, very well hearing the OJs singing the song, "For the love of money." People will steal from their brothers. For the love of money, people will rob their own mothers, I think the lyrics are. So we've known over the years that the love of money will cause people to do things that they ordinarily wouldn't do. And we see that history with the white evangelical church as far back as 1619, even further. Jamar Tisby talks about how white evangelicals compromised, right? Why did they compromise? Once again, because of greed. And the symptom, the sickness, was racism. When you understand that, when you understand what the scriptures say, that it is the love of money that is the root of all evil, then you can properly understand human nature. All right, let's look at it a little further. White evangelicals rooted their atrocities in greed and created racism to justify these acts. Racism achieves this by overvaluing white lives and devaluing non-white lives. And by the way, they have twisted scripture to accomplish the overvaluing of white life and the devaluing of black life. When racism devalues non-white lives, whites can easily rationalize atrocities such as slavery, colonialism, imperialism, genocide, murder, theft, oppression, and other evils against non-whites. Because if you say that this person is not fully human, and our country went to the extent of writing that in the Constitution, which is still there today. It still says. Now, there has been case law to get rid of that sentiment. So it's not the law, but it is still in the Constitution that blacks are 3/5 people. And so therefore, if you are looking at a group of people as 3/5 people, then it's not so bad to oppress, to enslave, to murder those people because they're not quite human. Now, where did that sentiment come from? Greed. Greed. Because these people that they deemed 3/5 of a person were the backbone of the labor that made this country the country that it is. And that money was coming in so fast, that money was coming in so furious that these folks, white evangelicals, were willing to do anything to keep that money rolling. Even if it meant enslaving, basically writing into law that these folks are not full human beings. Even if it required that, they did it for 2.5 centuries. And then when they were forced by war to stop it, then they created a system that was really close to slavery to continue making money off the backs of these people. All right? All of that points to greed. Now, this behavior directly contradicts core Christian principles, such as treating your neighbor as yourself. We call that the golden rule. Do unto others as you would want others to do unto you. And white evangelicals know that this behavior was so atrocious that they don't even want their children to learn what they did. So they have basically said it cannot be taught in their school. Or if it is taught, we will tell you how to teach it. Because we don't want them to know. We don't want our kids to know what we did. Then I go on to say white evangelicals often appear to embrace Ayn Rand's libertarian philosophy, which rejects altruism, rather than the biblical teaching of the Apostle Paul, who emphasized that it is better to give than to receive. This rejection of biblical principles creates an easy path toward anti-black racism. I call this phenomena white first, meaning white evangelicals prioritize their whiteness over Christ-likeness. I got a book coming out entitled White First, where I will deal with that in depth. Also, greed, not abortion, nor LGBTQ plus issues, drives white evangelicals' overwhelming support for Trump. It's not abortion. It's not LGBTQ plus. There may be some die-hard anti-abortion, anti-LGBTQ plus folks in the white evangelical community, but that's not what this is about. Just a little bit of study, know that the abortion issue and now the LGBTQ plus issue, especially transgenderism, is all smokescreen to do the one thing that they really value, to cover the greed. Are you with me? Their alliance is purely transactional. Their alliance with Trump. It's a quid pro quo. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. Evangelicals gain a leader who promises to safeguard that white power and wealth. And Trump secures the votes he needs to win office, empowering himself and technocrats like Musk and Thiel and Andreessen and Zuckerberg to do what? To consolidate global dominance and amass immense wealth. The cause of Christ is entirely absent from this equation. So it's an alliance, again, that's very transactional. Both sides gain something very important to them. Again, white evangelicals gain the right to protect their power, their wealth. It's one of the reasons why they are always calling something Marxism. Because in their mind, minorities are trying to take their wealth, right? Which is the root of Marxism. It's a redistribution of wealth. It's reparations. And so they fight that. And Trump, he promises to prevent that from happening. And that's why, let me just say this for the record, that's why it is so amazingly mindless that black people who purport to be about reparations support Trump. Trump will never, ever approve any reparations. That's crazy. That is absolutely a non-starter for him and white evangelicals. That is, again, in their minds, what? Marxism. That's Marxism. That is taking away from them wealth that they feel they justly have gained. So, again, it's just mindless to think that helping Trump by staying home, voting the couch, not voting or whatever, is going to ever move the reparations demand forward. All right. So, yes, there is that transactional alliance that benefits to both. And by the way, I have a video or two coming out soon that deals with the technocrats, Musk and Thiel and Andreessen and Zuckerberg and others. All right, so that you can begin to get your head around what's really going on here with Trump and with white evangelicals and these billionaires. All right, but greed is the issue. Racism is the symptom. Greed is the disease. Racism is the sickness. Greed is the sin. Racism is the symptom. Now, that will hopefully help you better understand, again, this alliance between Trump and white evangelicals. And it's real important that you understand that maybe 40 years ago, white evangelicals were telling everyone else that the president should be a certain type of person, a person who follows Christ, a person who has had one wife and who has stuck with that wife, a person who lives this model life, this godly life. So why did they change? Greed. Greed. That so-called moral leader that they talked about in the 80s with Reagan and Jerry Falwell, that did not help them because, they felt like, hey, we need someone who is uncouth. And I actually heard a white evangelical preacher say that. The pastor of First Baptist here in Dallas, Robert Jeffries, I think his name is. He said on national TV, because he was asked, why are you all now supporting someone who does not fit the model that you all described? And he said, because we need a mean son of a gun. We need a mean son of a gun. We don't need some nice Christian man. We need a mean son of a gun who will go and fight. That's what he said. And then the question ought to be, fight for what, Dr. Jeffries? And trust me, it is not fighting to advance the cause of Christ around the world or to make disciples, to win souls. It's not that. It is to protect, defend, and preserve white supremacy and for a few people to make a whole lot of money. That's what it's about. Okay? I am civil rights attorney and Reverend Augustus Corbett. Thank you for watching this video. Until the next time, peace.